Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of TFG Radio. Tonight we have myself, Adam, and once again we have my faithful companion, because he's the only one that ever makes it. According to my wife, my comadre, if you know what that means.
I mean, she's not wrong.
And fellow birthday boy, Danny.
Hey, hey.
John
What's up,
couldn't make it
everybody?
because he cares more about his family than us. And same with Tom. Well, Tom's in Yosemite.
Yeah.
So Tom is
Wrangling
enjoying
8
nature.
kids out in the wilderness.
Yeah, he's
Hopefully he
literally
comes back
touching
with all of
grass.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So last couple of weeks, it hasn't been too nothing like earth shattering in regards to 40K or basically anything 40K adjacent. There are a few things, but nothing at least I would consider big news. Maybe one thing, but that's more FLG related. One of the things they showed us or showcased was the new Darktide Box Game, which I think is like a year too late.
Yeah. I mean, I feel bad for Darktide. It's a really fun game. The new patches and kind of update system they put in is supposedly amazing. I only got to play with it a little bit because my time has been elsewhere. But like, yeah, talk about striking when the anvil is like stone cold, right? Like,
It
you
would
know,
it would be different if they actually gave us like brand new models,
right?
but they're giving us models that already available that you just get from the different box sets. It's
Yeah,
nothing
it's
like
it's it's
brand new.
it seems like a very slapdash. Like we need to do something to capitalize on this moment of this game being popular,
Yeah,
and even doing as fast as they could, and maybe as shoddily as they could, they still couldn't actually hit the right timing.
it's
Because,
all
like,
about
I mean,
timing.
when the game, they know, how long have they known the game's been development? They couldn't make models in that time, even if they were going to do a board game, which seems really weird. Why not just do it as a special squad or something like that for?
I could, yeah, I could see it as a board game. That's not the problem for me. It's just like you said, they're striking when the iron's cold, like a year, like I said, a year too late. So it's like, okay, these are cool, but the only way to incentivize me, especially to get it, would be if they had like chaos models that I don't have or that are unique
Right.
that I could maybe use as a sergeant or something. So I wasn't too. I mean, maybe the game is cool, but I mean, let's be honest. How many people buy GW box games for the games other than the models? Because you
Yeah,
had
I mean,
like,
I don't
I
disagree.
mean, you had Gangs of Kamara. You had oh shoot, what were those?
Speed freaks,
Speed Freaks. What's the other one? Like the
the
Combat
blood
Patrol,
something.
or the one with the
Oh, the
Scouts.
Tyranids versus Guard. Yeah, the
Yeah,
Tyranids Guard.
I mean, you technically
Um,
had games when they did all the flyers. Remember when they did the flyers book that nobody used,
oh yeah.
and
Oh
to
right.
promote it, they did those like Eldar versus Heldrake or whatever
Right.
box sets. I think those were supposed to be games. I don't remember. I just remember people bought them
Yeah.
for the
No.
models.
What about Dreadfleet? What about Dreadfleet?
That's like a poor boy's Man of War.
I know.
If you've never played Man of War, I guess Dreadfleet seems cool. But if you've played Man of War, Dreadfleet's not very good.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a copy,
Yeah.
but I never played it. I like the
Like I
models.
have one, but don't worry about it. And again, if they had this proves the point. If they had put in models that you couldn't get somewhere, then maybe people would be buying this box.
I mean, the game could be great, but nobody's gonna know because there's models that everybody has.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so
It seems like a
the only one that seemed to work well was the Blackstone because you
Black
had models
Fortress.
nobody had. Plus,
Her City was cool too.
yeah, but Curse City wasn't. I don't think any of the models were in the game.
No, that was. I mean, you could use the zombies as just like zombies,
Right.
and you
Oh,
could.
okay.
They put a couple. They put a couple of them in, but they didn't put all of them in, which was
Yeah,
kind of the issue.
with the Blackstone, they put like all the models in.
Yeah.
Every supplement they made for Blackstone Fortress, they put in the game, which is how we have the Voidsmen at arms or whatever, and the
Yeah.
Rogue Trader. So maybe that's the only one that kind of worked both as a, because I heard the board game's actually pretty good. That worked as a board game and as a source of new models. Because I have a ton of the Trader Guardsmen from that game.
Silver Tower wasn't bad. I remember playing that. It was okay. It wasn't
Which
like
one?
the
Oh,
greatest
still,
board game ever. Silver Tower.
I don't count it as a, because did they allow those models in the game? Obviously, some of
Yeah.
them you had to because
Yeah,
they're
they
blue
started.
horrors.
Yeah, they added a lot of the Silver Tower stuff to the game. Most of it's now getting cut out, but
Right.
with the great legend scene of AOS, the Great Purge.
Crimes being committed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just seems too little, too late in that regard. We'll see how. I mean, who knows? I guess someone could start a chaos army or something. I don't know. It just seems weird.
No, I don't disagree.
Like I said, I mean, yeah. If the game was still like on fire like it was when it first came out, then yeah. But
Right.
but you had what, Baldur's Gate. What else came out after
Final
that?
Fantasy VII, Helldivers 2.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, a
now the
lot of games have come out.
resurgence of Fallout.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it just seems weird. So, so that's on that. And speaking of like maybe too little, too late, Epic has released this coming weekend, which makes me sad because it's probably too little, too late. But I'll probably still end up getting all that stuff just to have.
You
But
can play Dayton. Dayton loves tiny tanks.
I know I still have the other models, and I still need to paint and everything. But that's always I'm at a bottleneck right now because I'm painting some historical stuff that I need to take pictures of. And in the same process, I had to change. If you can't see in the background, if you're watching on video, I'm still in the middle of a process of sorting out the new office, and now that's pushed back a little only because we're getting new floors. So I
No
can't put
fun.
everything away because I'll just have to take it all down again. So I gotta wait till we get the new floors, then we can put everything away. But I gotta try to take pictures of some models before that and send them off. And once I do that, because I still have to paint and base a few models. Once that's done, I can start focusing on other stuff. Yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed that I actually do it. So once I do that, hopefully, and the epic stuff doesn't take too long, to be honest. It's just a quick airbrush, and then pick out the details, and that's basically, for me, that's basically it. So it's fairly quickly. I mean, and I already have pre-built Warhound, Reaver, and Warlord Titans that are already pre-built and painted from the original Adeptus Titanicus, so I don't have to worry about that. It's really just the little guys and the vehicles, but putting them together is kind of a pain in the ass.
I can imagine.
I kind of
Little
miss
things are
original.
bothersome.
Yeah, I can. Well, especially when you start to lose those pieces, so
Oh God.
because they're tiny. But we'll see. Hopefully I'll get those done at some point. I am doing Sons of Horus for my scheme, and I think I have
Of
enough.
course.
I have enough models at this point to do a second army or second legion. So I may do a loyalist one just to balance it out, and then my brother has the Solar Auxilia stuff. So he should be working on that. This week what's this week? Is it all AOS stuff? No. Oh, it's all the Epic stuff is this week. That's the pre-order for
Yeah.
this week. Speaking of it, I did mention AOS. For AOS, we do have. They're still teasing more stuff. One of the things I saw was the endless spells, which
Yeah.
I think Danny you
They
can
have
talk
like
about more.
endless spells and faction terrain all have like a stat line now and wounds and things like that, which is really a very big difference. Which is cool, and I guess it's I don't know what the point value is, if they're just something you can select, if they're free, or how they work. 'Cause, I mean, faction terrain has been free in AOS 3,
Hmm.
so it's just and they used to have, monsters had a special action to destroy faction terrain if they were nearby it. So now that it can just be attacked, it's interesting, I guess, that to go that method of, I guess some you should be able to kill through shooting. So it's like, I guess if you don't have any good targets, like, well, I might as well nuke your faction terrain. Um, and then the endless spells being kind of just models now
Right.
is cool, but it's also expensive in the sense of like a lot of those endless spells are hard to find, especially the generic ones. You had to,
Mm.
I only have a few left. I don't. I either let people borrow or probably they just got thrown out, like the original box that came out years ago. So like finding the generic ones can actually be kind of tough and expensive. So I don't know if they're going to reproduce them, if they're going to phase them out to,
Right.
you know, bring in just the faction specific ones. But I mean, I guess it's interesting. I don't necessarily know enough about AOS to be like, here's the deep tech with it. Go listen to Party at the All Points for that. But I don't know. It seems different, interesting. Um, but it all depends on how much they cost to include and how much they actually do.
I think they mentioned that you have to summon the endless spells, and they called them a different name. Hold up, I have to bring
Yeah,
up.
yeah, they have all those. They have
Oh,
all these different names.
manifestations. That's what they're
Yeah,
called now.
yeah. I mean,
And they all,
I
they
don't
even,
know.
yeah, and they
We'll
all
see.
have stats. They all have like, if they can move, they can have a move value,
Yeah,
health,
and
and
wounds. Yeah.
and I guess
Oh yeah,
what you need
health
to
now.
roll in order to manifest the endless spell.
Yeah. I mean, the one they previewed, the Prismatic Palisade, was pretty good because it basically just stops shooting. You can't shoot it, and you can't shoot behind it, right? So it's just like becomes you know, a nice little like, oh, here's my melee army. Nope,
Right.
no shooting me.
Can't.
So that's
Okay.
cool. They're still doing the battle tactics, and they previewed the that there's Grand Alliance specific ones,
Mm-hmm.
at least one, and then there's generic ones, and then there'll be new ones in each like season, right? Like each player's handbook, general, field minotaur, and whatever we call them, 40K.
Oh, General's
Although
Handbook.
the what do you call it, the generic Grand Alliance ones kind of suck.
Okay.
Like yeah, like death has the easiest one, which is basically pick something in your enemy's army that is untouched and kill it this turn. It's like, okay,
Like a
that's
model.
pretty doable. Like a unit, but it
A
could be
unit.
just a single model. Yeah, so pick a unit that hasn't been damaged yet and murder it. Just
Okay.
like, okay, that's not bad.
Are there any
Meanwhile,
other restrictions to
destruction.
that, or is that
No, no.
that seems really good?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. Meanwhile, destructions is like, okay, have 3 units that started wholly within your territory charge and perform a fight action while wholly outside of friendly territory.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah. It's like, wow, okay. Um,
I think I'll take the kill something for free.
yeah. That's been a point of discussion I've heard, but and of course they have their own combat patrol or what they call Spearhead
Oh,
now or
Spearhead.
whatever.
Yeah, I heard about
Yeah.
that.
Which
Is
is
it
interesting that they have rules of like it's only 4 rounds, so all the games are a little shorter,
okay?
and to I guess balance out the boxes because they're just rebranding the boxes over to um,
To Spearhead.
to spearheads instead of start collecting or whatever they were called
Right.
before. I guess they're out of points balance wise, so they have bespoke rules. So like the Stormcast one, it's like, oh, your hero Idroshta and the 3 Annihilators, which are basically Terminators, they don't come on until turn 3 out of 4. They
Huh.
just are not allowed to come on. So it's like, oh, okay,
Okay.
yeah, you have more points than the other boxes. So here's how we make that kind of fair.
But how? It, okay. I mean, I don't know how they balance that. If it's all right, well, I'm sure it'll be fine.
I mean, how many people do you know who like dedicatedly play Combat Patrol?
Nobody. Everyone.
So
If they play Kill Team instead.
right. So I don't know how big that spearhead scene is going to be. I mean, it's a cool
Well,
idea in
it might be
theory.
it might be because there's no. I mean, not to shit on Warcry, but there's no kill team in Age of Sigmar.
I mean, that
And what I
very
mean
well
by
could be.
that is, yes, there's Warcry, but you can't use the same. You can't use the same models from. It's not like in Kill Team. It's literally the same models that you use in your normal army,
Right.
and you
If
don't.
you play 40K,
If you
you
play
have a
you,
kill team army.
you have a Kill Team army essentially. You don't have that with Warcry.
No. No, I really again Warcry was a lot of fun when I was playing it more, but I mean, I could maybe take off. The thing that they were talking about is that once you get used to it, games will, last 45 minutes at most.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I could see it as like you know, a cool way to play 4 or 5 games in a game night or at a tournament, right? And
Right.
obviously a much lower barrier of entry for new players. So like, I mean,
Yeah.
it has potential, but like people have to buy in and support it, right? Like you need a lot of community stakeholders willing to like not play in their tournaments to be able to run a little, spearhead tournament.
Right. Yeah.
And
But it does have with the lower barrier of entry, you can get a lot more new people
yeah,
to at least try
and I
it
mean, I
out
think
or try out the tournament format
yeah,
for it. So we'll see. I don't know. Like I said, Warcry's there, but it doesn't. I don't think it has the same immediate
no,
crossover that Kill Team has with mainline 40K, which is why
no,
nobody plays Combat Patrol because
right.
everyone, at least a majority, I won't say no one. There's probably some remote
Well,
place that
there's always
does.
people, yeah,
But I mean, so with Age of Sigmar, if I had let's say I had the Skaven army, I had the new Skaven army. If I can just take
right,
a couple guys from each unit and just play a Kill Team version or a Warcry version with just those models instead of having to buy these bespoke models for the game,
right.
which is a whole new investment. And I get it; they're there to make money in the end. That's all GW wants to do. But I think they can make more money by doing it the Kill Team way instead of the Warcry way.
No, I think
Because
that's
in Warcry you have these models and you're like, okay, well, especially now that the Warcry models are no longer eligible to be in Age of Sigmar, it's like, okay, then
that's
why
a
would I
big
want
one.
to play Warcry?
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna. I don't
I
know if they're
mean,
just gonna say goodbye to Warcry, but
they
I
could all.
definitely. I mean, I'd be more interested in playing Spearhead than Warcry just because I'm like I have all these like random models
Exactly.
and I can, if you have the right set of them, you can make a Spearhead box pretty easily and be
Yeah.
like, cool, let's just play this.
Yeah. Or I mean, the other option is maybe they transition Warcry over to the Kill Team format
I mean, that'd be cool.
with like a new edition of Warcry,
Right.
and they basically convert to like a Kill Team format in regards to like using the models you already have.
Yeah. That'd be the smartest. And then you could even use the old war bands as like, oh, well, this just, these guys just count as generic whatever, depending on what
Right.
equipment you give
Yeah.
them.
And it also like how they use Kill Team also allows you to resculpt a lot of old units into new unit types
Right.
to put in as Warcry. But that'd be kind of cool. Like it does with the combat patrols, it negates the spearhead. But
Yeah.
but the combat patrols are also good if you're just starting out in general.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess it just depends what you're looking for in terms of gameplay. Are you looking for something like heavy, so like 2,000 points, or are you just looking to dip your toe with maybe a
Right.
combat patrol that you can also use in Kill Team or whatever? So I don't know. I feel like Warcry needs a whole refresh at this point because it's just so out there. And as much as you like it, Danny, I think
Yeah.
I think
That says a lot.
to
Says a
become
lot.
more at least become more GW mainstream, it needs more like the Kill Team treatment instead of
Hmm.
where people can just reuse the models they already have. But we'll see how it goes. There's been a lot of speculation about Warcry, especially after they made the announcement you can't use them in AOS. So that's my speculation in regards to how they could do it. But I don't know if they would shutter it altogether. But you never know with them. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We also got from Games Workshop we got their Metawatch, which was a lot much ado about nothing in my opinion because they talked about the percentages and who's up, who's down, blah blah blah. And
Right.
essentially, the message was not that everything's fine, but that hey, we're watching everything. Everything looks, everything needs to be tweaked, but we're still watching. So that was probably the real message I got from it. I don't know if you watched it, Danny.
No. I honestly don't care. I feel like it's rarely illuminating. So
Yeah, I think that part of it is just to let people know that GW's like there.
yeah, I feel like it's lip serviced of like, hey, we are paying attention, and
Well,
but it
that's
becomes
what I mean.
almost like
Yeah,
a
I think that's part
sales
of it,
app.
but it also lets people. But it makes it like they're not. So it just shows that they're not ignoring. At least giving that
Right,
perception that like they're not just completely ignoring it until the next next major update. That hey,
right,
even though nothing's going on or the new codexes aren't out yet, we're still looking at
right.
stuff. I mean, they mentioned Necrons being up there. Necron's still up there. The orc and custodes and Tau codex are going to be out in the wild soon. I don't know if Tau will make it for on the cut for BAO, but by the time of ACO and the mid-year update, we'll get an idea of what Tau, orcs, and custodes can do in the wild,
Right.
as opposed to what people think they can or can't do. So, but in the meantime, they just gave us, hey guys, we're looking at everything. It's fine. Well, not that it's fine, but it's better. But it could be better. So like I said, yeah. So we'll see. Everyone expects the annual update probably in the next couple months. So some of us are looking forward to that. We did get the points update for a lot of stuff. I know orcs got hit pretty hard, especially with the legends of a lot of their units. I believe Custodes got a
Custode's got a
few
lot of point
bumps.
drops.
Huh?
They got a lot of drops. They got a lot of drops. So like
Oh
point
yeah.
drops, custodes. Yeah.
So did they do
Tyranids
anything
got a
to?
few.
I think they did a couple points tweaks with a few mob, but nothing insane.
Yeah,
I don't think.
it wasn't any like huge realignment anywhere. It was mostly usually a few specific units getting a little bit of a bump up or a little bit of a bump down.
Yeah, they was. Yeah, usually with the points at this stage, they usually do when the codexes come out just to address what the current points are, which is hilarious because the points
Right.
in the book are
Or
not the
months out of
points you're
date.
going to see in the app.
Yep.
So they get
That makes sense.
pre adjustment before the book's even out,
Hmm.
so that your book's already the points, at least that points page in your book is already null and void by the time you actually get the book in your hands, and that's common nowadays as they make adjustments on the fly essentially. So
Hmm.
so we'll see what happens. They like I said when we get the Tau book in a couple weeks or next week, we should be getting the points update for Tau. If you are going to an event that is not allowing the new Tau book, do not update your app if you're using the GW app. Your app should be sent to manual update. So you need to go in there and update it yourself. Otherwise, if you're using let's use Tau for an example. Let's say Tau comes out this Saturday, which I think it does, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm too lazy to look. Let's say it comes out this Saturday, but you have a tournament the following Saturday, and the cutoff was the previous Saturday. So it didn't make the cutoff, and they're not allowing the collector's edition version. The GW will update the app usually the Thursday before a book is released into street date, which means if it comes out this Saturday, if they would update it today, which is Thursday, the day that we're recording, and your app would automatically update. But if you're using the index, it's not going to have the correct points, especially if you didn't turn in your list yet. So we say this all the time, or at least I say it. Don't manually set it so that you have to manually update your apps, so that you don't get caught unawares, maybe paying too much points or too little points for your army, and then you might get a bit of trouble with the TO. So make sure to set it to manually update because that will help you in the long run. Trust me. Speaking of tournaments, we do have BAO coming up in a couple weeks. I will be going through the FAQ, the FLG FAQ this weekend, and hopefully answer as many questions, if not all the questions, by Monday. So those will get done. If you have any issues in regards to your models, I've been getting a few, but not too many. You can send the email to headjudge@frontlinegaming.org, and I usually answer fairly quickly. If you have any, and just a reminder, we are enforcing the paint rule a bit more. It's not just 3 slap dashes of paint. It needs to be like meaningful painting, not just like little dots on the model. So make sure, if you have a question about it, I did get a couple emails about, is this enough paint for 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 their armies? And so far they've been okay. You may want to also start basing your model, and when I mean basing, I mean actual basing, not just painting the model a primer color, because after BAO it's not going to be allowed at all.
No.
The easy way to do it is just like have your friend or somebody just walk past your army, and if they look at it and to them it doesn't look like it's painted, then you probably need to put paint on it, some more paint on it. I know there's some, like, I'll call them themes, but sometimes even I did it where you just pick, like, well, my Thousand Suns, they have a ghostly theme because I didn't want to paint a lot of the stuff. So I did that. I forget what it's called, what color it's called. It's one of the ghost colors from that they use for Age of Sigmar. But I basically quickly brushed them all that, but then I highlighted all the gold. I did all the gold trim, and then the weapons, and then highlight a couple extra colors somewhere else. So, and that was enough to get it to 3-4 colors. And I actually do basing, so the basing's never a problem. I think a not enough painted army really stands out when there's no basing.
Yep.
So
basing does a lot. I mean, no matter how well painted a model is, if it doesn't have at least basic basing, it always looks unfinished and bad.
Yeah, the only time where it's allowed to have no basing is if you have an acrylic base,
right?
A see-through base, basically. So because you can't, because painting on it defeats the whole purpose of having the acrylic base.
Right.
So that's the only time is where we allow no basing. So if you have any questions, just send me an email again at headjudge@frontlinegaming.org, and we can I can let you know what needs to be done for that army. In addition, we have ACO coming out. And Danny, you're not going to BAO, right, to play or anything?
No, okay. I can't.
I know. I sometimes I know you, like at San Diego. I know you usually go because it's a much quicker turnaround for you in terms of driving.
Right. Yeah.
Because
I can get there and back pretty easy.
Yeah. For those that don't know, San Francisco from LA is like a 6-hour drive.
Yeah.
Or a 1.5-hour flight, more or less.
I mean, it's not that far, but it's just one of those things of, needing to be able to, like, get back in time to do drop-offs and pickups or things like that is a lot with kids. It's a lot easier if I just need to drive 2 hours home.
Yeah, that's probably the furthest extent most people would drive would be like 6 hours. Because I used to go, me and my family and I used to go all the time when I was younger because I have an aunt that lives in San Francisco. So,
right.
And then I went to school in San Francisco for a few years before I transferred over back to LA. But yeah, so that's coming up, and literally 2 weeks after that is fucking Atlantic City Open. So BAO is the start of my whirlwind trips. The next
busy season.
It's the next like 3. It's like three event blocks.
Right.
So there's like 8 events in the year, but there's 3 in the early because it's January, February, March, and then I have April off, and then it's May, June, July, and then I have August off, and with the Champions Cup, I get to play.
That's September, October.
So I have September, October, and then I have November, December off. But November, December is actually busy because of LVO.
Right. Yeah, it takes months to prep for LVO.
Yeah. So, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So ACO is the next one after that. Tickets are already on sale. I think they're going to have the Old World tournament at ACO.
Oh, that's cool.
And I believe it's usually about 250 players for 40K. So it's usually pretty big. The venue's pretty nice. I actually like it. They have a club. They have a club there. I never go, though, because I like to sleep.
Right. Yeah, sleep is good. Sleep
But
is
it's
good.
nice to have. It's nice to have options.
Right.
But and it's Atlantic City. I mean, I have my opinion about Atlantic City, but if you like Atlantic City, it's not a bad place to be, I guess.
I like that. I guess
I'm spoiled by Vegas
that's true.
and by California weather. So ACO's coming up. If you haven't bought your tickets, I believe tickets are still on sale. If tickets still available for 40K. If not, there's other stuff to do. There's a format change for ACO this year. There's no longer a top cut. I believe we are going to play 8 rounds no matter what. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and only 2 games
Oh
on
wow.
Sunday. So we'll cut out early, and we should have one undefeated after those 8 rounds at the very least. So, and I believe we are limiting tickets, so it's just going to be 8 rounds no matter what. So,
Nice.
and you're not again, and you're not obligated to play all 8 games. If you're done on Saturday and you just want to finish there, as if you didn't make the top cut, then you just drop. You can drop whenever you
Right.
want. It's not a big deal. And then after that is LSO, which I don't think tickets are on sale yet, but they will be soon. And there's a lot of stuff going on for that. Kicker will have more information as it gets closer. One thing about BAO though, Kicker will not be there. If you haven't heard,
Oh.
because he talked about it on this week's Signals. No, he's moving to Utah, so he's in the process of moving, and so he can't. And Memorial Day weekend is a good day for him and his family to make that move complete, to finish that
Right.
move, because it's a 3-day weekend. So he'll be using that time to complete his move, and then. But I mean, he rarely misses an event. I think this is
Yeah. Well, no, he's gone.
I think this is the first one since I've been working with him that he's missed, or had not have been. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's one where he wasn't at, and that was like one of the first ones. But ever since he took over, he hasn't. This is the first one he's missed. And it's fairly good reason, so I'm not too worried about it. Champion Cup. If you have a team playing the Champions Cup, your captain should have received an email with the player packet. It's a very bare bones player packet. Really, just has the schedule on it. So it's basically 2 games Friday, 2 games Saturdays, 2 games Sunday, and each game is 4 hours.
No. Okay.
That's because the pairings take a little while, especially with
Mm-hmm.
8 players on each team. But I kind of like the format only because it doesn't put a lot of stress on you to like, hey, we got to do all these 3 games in one day. It's just 2 games. It's almost like the friendly at LVO because it's 2 games a day and it's only 4 hours each game. And if you happen to finish early, well, get an extra long lunch.
Yeah. Right.
But looking forward to that. I get to play. Danny gets to play. John gets to play.
It's a miracle. I have to sign up for our next league so I can start getting more reps in with my NIDs.
I know, right? So looking forward to that. That will be in Dallas, which is, I think it's the same venue as LSO. So if you're familiar with that venue, it's basically the same one. The Kicker also put out there that if you don't have a team and you're looking for a team, or if you just want to help out a team that maybe had someone drop at the last minute, there is a mercenary list and maybe a mercenary team if we end up with an odd number of teams.
Right.
Go to if you're not part of the Frontline Gaming Discord, then get on the Signals Discord, and they have the link there, and I believe they have the link in their show notes for their episode this week. So, and if you happen to be there, maybe you'll play against one of us and earn that easy win against someone from TFG Radio.
Yeah. Right.
So,
Right.
I'm just saying. I mean, most of us on that team know where our skill level is at this stage. So, but yeah, so
All the
looking
age
forward
of
to that.
fatherhood.
Yeah.
Dark side.
Currently, no information about SoCal Open. We assume it's still at the fairgrounds. So, but once we get past like ACO, we might have more information because.
Yeah.
But and then this week we announced the dates for LVO, and we put it in our Facebook page. So if you plan on going to LVO this week, or this next year, it is the weekend of January 16th through the 19th, which is, I believe, the second or third weekend in January. It's like it gets
A
earlier and
little,
earlier.
it's a lot earlier. Yeah.
Let me look
We
really
both
quick.
click through our calendar. It is the third weekend.
It's the third weekend, but then there's
The
5 weeks
third
in
weekend of
the
January.
year in the month, or
Yeah.
5 weekends in
Yep.
that month. So
Yes.
it'll be smack dab in the middle. This is probably the earliest we've ever had it.
Yeah,
I remember what
definitely.
the first one I went to as a player was in February.
I
So
remember there's one year was the year the Falcons gave away the Super Bowl to the Patriots. That
was
was
that
there was a year where it was the
2015?
same 15 or 16. Yeah.
Because I
Um,
went. Well, there were. I think there was like two or three times where it was the same weekend as the Super Bowl.
the Super Bowl. Yeah.
So are you looking now?
Yep. Uh, was 27. That was the 2017 Super Bowl.
Okay, well that
That
one we
was
had at the
Super
same
Bowl
weekend also.
51. Yeah. Yeah. February
2015.
5th. Yeah. So yeah, I mean they've been getting early and early because there was a point where they were in February, and now
Yeah,
they've inched back, and then inched into January, end of January, and now it's
middle
middle
of
of January.
January. I only remember the February one. That it was February because that was the first LVO I went to, and it was only the second LVO that they had done, and it was the first one we had just started the podcast like literally a month before.
Right.
So yeah. So I mean, if anyone asks me, I always tell people they have to go to LVO at least once. You don't have to go every year if you're not able to,
Right.
but you should go to at least once, whether you like it or not. After you go, at least you went.
Right.
It's a lot of fun. You're in a casino. It's so there's always stuff to do, even if you don't feel like playing 40K anymore. There's other game systems there that you can watch. They're making a big push in the next couple of years to get more cosplayers there. We had a cosplay contest last year. I don't know if you remember,
Right.
Danny. You should
Hmm.
remember. We had
The Known Oil.
the paint pot.
Yeah, it's the Known Oil girl. The
Yeah.
guy I had to bark at.
Yes. Well, that's a cosplay issue in general. So, but so I think they're trying to foster more stuff outside of like just the Games Workshop universe
Right.
because there's like historical games, other manufacturers, people showcasing their games, things like that. So it's trying to become more of a convention. Oh, I guess kind of like Adepticon, but on the West Coast, basically.
Right.
So I always tell people, LVO, Adepticon. Adepticon's a lot of fun, just in terms of as a convention.
Right.
Maybe not as a 40K event,
But as a convention,
but as a
as a thing to do.
convention, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I used to say Nova. I don't know nowadays if I would recommend Nova. I guess.
There's a certain history there, but I mean,
Yeah,
the
and
reality is there's so many events now that you can
yeah.
probably get the same feel much closer to home.
So I probably put Nova still in there because they're still doing their thing. And then the other thing, the fourth I would add would be any GW event, not any
Right.
specific city, but you need to go to. Even though Nova is almost like a GW event because of the format of the tournament, Nova at least has other like Adepticon and like LVO now has other game systems and other stuff going on.
Right.
I don't know if Nova has a big historical contingent like Adepticon does, but they do have other game systems going on outside of the GW games. GW events a little different atmosphere. So I would suggest going to a GW event if you can, whether you play Age of Sigmar, 40K or whatever. It's just something to experience. I went to the one in San Diego, the only one they did in San Diego. It was fun. I don't really like the format at the GW events or Nova format
Right.
with the pod system, but in terms of atmosphere and what they had going on, it was still worth going. So those I still would suggest that. But back to LVO again. If you've never been, you should go. It's a great time, and I mean it's Vegas, and there's very few places like it. So, if any.
Yeah.
I think that's it for now. I don't think of anything else. I did want to talk about a little bit. One thing real quick before we go, or before Danny has to go.
Yeah, Mom, my kid's the one coughing herself awake right now. Right before we go to Disneyland. Awesome.
Nice.
Yay.
So recently, people have been asking me about certain players, and not, and what this is in regards to is like both as a player as a TO.
Right.
How do you handle being told like, hey, so and so's coming to this event, you need to watch out for him, or hey, which is the most common one, is this one, hey, you're playing against so and so, oh, he does this. Oof. This. Right. So as a player, when and you know nothing about the player they're talking about, you've never met them, you've never played against them, you don't know anything about them except what other people are telling you. So I guess Danny, my question to you is, as a player first and foremost, how do you handle being told like, hey, you're playing so and so, he's known to do this?
Honestly, I mean, this is just more of me, but I would, hear that and be like, okay, thanks for telling me. But really, I feel like you're setting yourself up to have a bad game and a combative game if you go into it like, okay, now I've got to watch this motherfucker like a hawk, right? Like all you're doing is setting the expectations of having a negative play experience with a person. So I think it's important to go in with just be as neutral as possible. Of like, I don't know this dude. I don't know anything about him. I don't know with what people say are true. So let me go in and try to have a positive experience. That doesn't mean you let them do whatever you want. It doesn't mean you assume they're the greatest person on earth. You just go in with a neutral attitude of like, okay, cool. Let's see if this, let's play and have fun. And then you kind of you have to be aware, as you should be aware in any game, right? Unless you're playing your, bestest mate and like you don't have to worry. If you're playing someone in a tournament environment, even if someone you know from the tournament scene, maybe you're not friends, but you've played against each other or like had lunch together at a different event, you should still watch what they're doing, right? You can't ever assume everyone is playing completely on the up and up, right? Like, because mistakes happen almost 99% of the time, unwitting mistakes, right? People forget rules. They, have a different interpretation, but you've got to watch people when you play in a tournament environment, right? Like you just do. But you should have a neutral mindset to it, not I'm looking to catch this guy. I know this guy's a rat fuck, et cetera, et cetera. Because if you do, you're going to cause conflict because you are going to try to call them on bullshit that maybe they're not doing, and now you look like the bad guy. Now you're the one instigating conflict.
Right.
And if this person really is a slime ball, they're going to use that to their advantage against you. So you've just opened yourself up to kind of get played in another way. So just kind of. You don't ignore it. You just be like, oh, okay, thanks for letting me know. And then go into the game with a neutral standpoint. Give the person a chance to demonstrate to you that they're on the up and up and want to play the game and enjoy the game in a sporting and friendly manner. And if they do start doing stuff, hold your ground, right? Be assertive, advocate for yourself and be like, hey, man, I don't think it works that way. Or can I see that stat card, right? Can I see their stat line? Is that how can you show me the wording, right? Like, that's not saying you're lying to me. It's I just want to verify. And again, if someone is asking you, hey, can I see your stat line? Hey, can you show me the wording? They're not attacking you. They just want that verification. And anyone I ask where I'm like, hey, man, can I see the wording on that? They're like, no, dude, what are you talking about? Why you got to be like that? I'm immediately like, judge, right? Like, there's no reason to react that way. If you're reacting negatively to someone asking for clarification, you're probably doing something you shouldn't be doing.
All right.
So might as well get the judge involved from the start.
And as a judge, when I know, it happens to me and happens and probably happens to you too, where people like tell you, hey, so-and-so's here. You need to watch him for doing this or that. Is there anything special you do, or do you just keep an eye on him a bit more or talk to his opponents? Or do you just, what can you do, I guess, that's the question.
I mean, again, I try to be, as a judge, I think it's really, really important to be a good judge, you have to maintain a certain level of impartiality, right? Like you can't, if someone comes up to you and is like, hey, this person is from my scene, they do X, Y, and Z. Again, it's information, it's data, but that doesn't make anything they're saying true. For all you know, they're the slime ball and they're the one who spreads false rumors about people, right? To kind of cover for their own tracks. So you just say, okay. And, maybe you remember. So when you pass by the table, maybe you look an extra 3 seconds longer. Maybe you take you actually interject yourself into the game for a minute just to like make a friendly comment, be like, hey guys, how's it going? How are you doing? Right.
Right.
Things like that. Make friendly contact and check, vibe check. And if it's someone who you've had multiple people, especially people you really trust, who are upstanding, be like, hey, this person is a consistent problem. We have them on tape doing this before. That's a different thing. That's
Right.
someone who, if they are coming to your event, you need to talk to them beforehand, which I have done to plenty of people who we have legitimate evidence of this person has problematic habitual behavior. So they know from the start, like, hey man, I'm going to be paying attention. You're not going to get a lot of slack here, right? Like you just, play on the up and up and everything's cool. Don't, we're going to come down. And that's very different than just rando McRando coming up to you and being like, oh, you're playing that guy, or like, oh, this guy's at the tournament. Because again, I don't know. And there's nothing worse from a player's perspective of a TO or judge coming in and immediately assuming you're the bad guy. Right? Like, because sometimes that's just not the case and you feel like shit. And other times, maybe it is the case, but how do you redeem someone when you're constantly looking at them to kind of punish them? Mm-hmm. People can change. People can improve.
Yeah.
You have to give them that chance.
Yeah, for myself as a player anyway, it's usually just like, okay, it's something I would keep in the back of my mind, but not something I'm like overtly looking out for. It's like, hey, he does this. I'm like, okay. And if he happens to do it, then yeah, I'll talk to him. I'll call him out on it or whatever. But I'm not going to make it obvious that that's what I'm looking for. Because then it puts him on edge or puts my opponent on edge, even more on edge. And like you said, more combative. And I've seen it. I've seen people tell their opponents, hey, I hear you're a shithead, so let's have a clean game.
Right.
But I don't know if that's part of a strategy, because I've heard people say that, and then their opponent that they claim is not a very good opponent will quit the game.
Right.
But
again, I think
I don't know if that's because he is a bad opponent, or is it because this other guy's all of a sudden attacking him because of what people say about him or whatever. So that part's hard. I'm for me myself, I just I'll because I know people tell other people, hey, this guy's like this, thinking that they're doing them a favor, like, hey, that they're helping them out, whether it's someone they know or it's a teammate or whatever. I mean, it's good to know, but how you phrase that information and how if someone tells me how I interpret that information, and it depends on you really, how you express that information or how you convey it, or even if you do you I don't tell my opponent that all these people have been talking about them. I just play them and then just watch if it comes up what people are talking about. Because what if he's fine playing you, even though he lost, especially if I win, I didn't win because I kept on like stat checking him or berating him or antagonizing him and getting him off tilt. I'd rather not play that way, because that's more of a mental game, and I'm not playing them at their best.
It's unsporting.
But at the same time, I'm still going to watch and make sure he's doing everything as far as I can tell on the up and up. And even if he does something, I mean, to be honest, if he's really good at hiding it, I won't be able to see it anyway. So
that's you. But I mean, I think a lot of this boils down to, for a lot of players, which, John and us have talked about before, is players need, you always need to advocate for yourself first and foremost, because there is this mentality of the judges are going to come and save me. The judges are going to come and protect me from bad actors. And 90% of the time, if players just stood up for themselves and been like, hey man, I don't know if that works that way, let's get a judge, hey man, I didn't see you roll that. Do you mind rolling in the middle of the table? Right? Like, hey man, I don't think that's the interpretation. Or,
Right.
hey man, I know crisis suits RT whatever, right? Like they're not what you're telling me. Um, get a judge involved from the start. Like hold your ground. Don't come to us 3 games later, 3 days later, a month later, and then be like, hey, I heard this guy's an asshole, and this is what he did to me in my game. Because, again, from a fair, impartial system, we can't do a lot. We'd actually be terrible TOs and judges if someone came up to us a month later and was like, hey, this guy did this, and then we retroactively got on them. All right, because that
Right.
just shows we are incredibly impartial, or we're incredibly, biased, and that also we don't do the kind of requisite data gathering it takes to actually punish somebody for playing a game,
Yeah,
right? Like,
I think it's the latter. It's more of like going off of hearsay as opposed to like as much actual data as possible. Because by the time we get
right,
to like later in the day or weekend or like you said a month later, it becomes almost hearsay at that point. Because like for my regular job, I deal a lot with well, for those that don't know, I'm a union rep, union shop steward. So I deal with a lot of that in regards to like when did this happen, when did that happen, and to be honest, how many people remember what happened like a month ago, 3 months ago,
right,
yesterday? I'm old. I just had my birthday, so I don't remember like things. If you ask me what you do on this date 3 months ago, I'm gonna tell you I don't know or I can't recall because I don't recall unless it like really sticks out to me. It's something mundane like what did you have for lunch? I don't know. Food? Did I take a lunch? I mean, I may have clocked out on a lunch. I don't know if I actually took a lunch. Think so. It's easier just to do it that there and then and there, and try not to be confrontational about it. As
well,
in terms of for as a judge, when people tell me like, "Hey, I heard so and so's coming to the event. Do you know that he does this?" Because I get told names all the time. I'm not gonna lie. I get told and unless we've had to deal with them before, then the name doesn't recognize. I don't recognize the name, but
right,
people will tell me, "Hey, so and so has been a problem player in the past, and he's coming to this event. You should watch out for him." Usually, when that happens, I say, "Okay, thanks. I'll keep an eye out, and I'll do like you said, Danny. I'll either monitor their table. I won't come up and tell them, "Hey, I was told to watch out for you." No,
right, yeah,
I'll just, like you said, come walk by their table a few times. I might ask their opponent like afterwards, how was the game? Things like that. Maybe that might be too close because he might that person might find out. But for the most part, I
right.
usually
I mean, for me, I only do the, hey, what was that game like? If I walked by and there's like a bad vibe,
mm,
right? Like if it looks like, both of them are not really talking, they're not engaging, if they both look sullen, if they both look, incredibly kind of agitated, then
right,
that's one of those things like, hey, that didn't look like a fun game. Hey, man, what was up? Right.
right,
But again, a lot of this is, common sense ain't common, but like it's, being a good TO and being a good judge is just having certain common sense of like, don't jump to conclusions. Just go and get a vibe check, right?
yeah,
Like, again, you can make contact with people without being confrontational. And then as a player, like, again, I just wish more players really understood like it's okay to call a judge and it's okay to push back on your opponent for something as long as you're not doing it in a combative way, right? Like if your opponent rolls dice like completely obscured from your view and you just scream out, "You're hiding your dice, judge." You're already creating a conflict, right? Like
right,
you're making the situation harder to resolve. It's totally okay though to be like, "Hey man, I didn't see that dice roll." Right? Because you rolled it behind your giant piece of terrain. Do you mind rolling it in the middle of the table? And if they're like, "No, I don't want to do that. It was this, this, this," you're like, "Well, man, I didn't see it. That's not really fair to me. I'm going to call a judge just to see what's up." Right?
right.
That's fine. That's not being bad. That is standing up for your rights. Right? And like, I always find it funny. Top like the really high end, top end tournament players, they will call judges all the time, and it's never combative. It's never
No,
like this guy doesn't know. It's just like, "Hey, judge, can you give us a quick check on this one? Hey, judge, we don't
yeah,
agree on this," or "Hey, judge, can you just do this?" And it's fine whatever. And even if we again rule against a top end player, they're not like, "Oh, well, blah blah." They're like, "Oh, okay, cool."
yeah,
And if it really is a problem, they feel like we really screwed up the call, they'll talk about us later calmly. outside of the game, right?
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
fine. And again, you can do this shit, right? Like you can call a judge, you can even question a judge's interpretation of something. You just have to be non-combative about it and sometimes accept like, okay, well, I can't change this ruling in the middle of the game, but I can come talk to them later and see what's going on.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's happened to me. That's never been an issue.
yeah, I don't mind. And, I'm happy to defend my ruling. And I've definitely had people be like, okay, well, this is how this place does it. Here's the logic they use. And I can be like, oh, I totally see that. That's probably better than mine was at the moment. So I'll talk to the other judges and we'll see about what's the kind of official ruling going forward. But, like, okay, cool. Right? Like, again, just don't, in general, if you're playing, it's okay to advocate for yourself. There's a difference between being an asshole and advocating for yourself. And if you don't know that difference, then, you should probably ask your community and the people around you of like, hey, how would you do this? And, practice a little bit of being able to tell someone like, hey, I disagree with what you're doing. Here's how to say that without causing a conflict. Not everyone has these social skills, and that's okay, but most of us do,
Right.
to a bare minimum.
Yeah. So this spiraled into advocate for a judge, but that's probably part and parcel to what to do when you're told about a guy or that guy.
Right.
But it's essentially try to keep an open mind, but at the same time, if your opponent does start to edge into that type of territory that they're known for, or being told that you've been told they've been known for, then start asking for a judge. I mean, obviously, and as Danny said, not in an aggressive manner, because I mean, we'll still come to your table, but
Right.
but you
It's
and
not
your
helping
opponent
you,
are
though.
not going to have a fun game.
Yeah.
Because I've been at plenty of places where they've called for judges but still had a fun game and
Yeah.
with each other. So I think we'll end it on that on fun. Real quick, Danny, you working on anything right now?
No, I've had like no time to paint, and not honestly because I haven't been playing as much. Not a lot of inspiration, so
Okay.
I'm going to start working on Tyranids again just to get
Yeah.
my defender list fully painted and done, and then maybe make it pretty over the summer
I
before September.
Well, apparently you get judged for paint the GWA. So what GW does is they judge you for painting while you're playing, whether you want to get judged for paint or not.
Oh, okay. Well, there
And
you
you're going to be judged as a team.
go.
There's
Right.
only team awards at this event apparently.
Well, that's cool. That's
So
fine.
like I think at WTC or some of the events they do like a who does the best individual at the team event, but in
Right.
this case it's all going to be about the team. So the paint judging, where your standing is, that's all team based. There's no individual awards. I believe that's as far as I know for right now. We'll see what the player pack gets more fleshed out, but yeah. So like I said, I have to photograph some Aztecs. I'm not gonna lie. So
Yeah.
once I get that done, I can push forward and work on some other stuff. I don't know when the CSM book is out. It's supposed to be before Sisters, so I don't know when Sisters is out. So if they come out before Champions Cup, I may pull a John and pivot from Death Guard to CSM. So I'm going 020 all weekend. Guaranteed.
There you go. Oh yeah.
But I think that's all for tonight. Hopefully, we'll have John and or Tom back in a couple weeks. If you noticed on our YouTube feed, we did put out an episode of Pod Save the Imperium. It's basically from our podcast. It's our older episodes. I'm re-uploading the episodes on YouTube. So after this episode, we should have a new one next week. I forget which one it was, but I'm doing them in the order they were released. So I'll just have to remember which one that was. So give that a listen. We got a pretty good response for it first time out, considering I didn't really advertise it too much. But so hopefully we'll get the next one out and people will listen to that. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the YouTube, because that's where we get it. Basically gets the algorithm going and shows up for other people too, especially when you like stuff like the YouTube channel. I believe that is it. Don't forget to get your tickets for BAO sold out. get your tickets for ACO, and when LSO comes up, get your ticket LSO. LVO tickets should be up. Usually they're up by June 1st, historically.
Right.
If you got the high roller package last year, you'll get an email about a week or two before, so you get first dibs at the high roller package for next year. So there you go. Don't forget, like I said, like and subscribe. Danny, any last words of wisdom for the masses?
Play games, be nice to each other.
Play games, be nice. All right.
Those are.
Well, once again, thank you for listening. Always a pleasure. Always appreciate it, especially when we see you at events. So we'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Good night, and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Laters.